Of all the venues you would expect Celtic to face a warm welcome, Ibrox would not be one that most people would name. And yet on more than one occasion, Celtic have actually played there as the official home team. This is the story of Celtic's experiences as the home club at Ibrox. The first time this happened was in the midst of a global conflict. September 1939 saw the start of the Second World War. This had a significant impact on Scottish football, as national competitions were suspended and limits placed on crowd sizes. In January 1940, Celtic were due to host Rangers in a Western League fixture. However, the decision was taken to relax some of the attendance rules. As Celtic Park was smaller than Ibrox, this meant that fewer fans would be able to attend a game in Glasgow's East End. Celtic thus reached a deal with Rangers to switch the game to Ibrox. This would allow more spectators to watch the game and also ensure more money was raised at the turnstiles. Thus, on New Year's Day 1940, Celtic welcomed Rangers to the boys' temporary home of Ibrox. 40,000 supporters were drawn to Glasgow's south side for this unusual fixture. Given the very foggy weather for the game, this was an impressive figure. However, as an indication of the effect of the war on attendances, a year previous there had been actually almost 120,000 fans at this same fixture. The situation of Celtic as Ibrox hosts did nothing to inspire the boys in a way that they started the game. The first half mainly saw Rangers enjoy the bulk of possession and chances, although as half-time approached, no one had managed to break the deadlock. Just as the boys hoped to have the chance to regroup at half-time, it was the so-called away men that had cause to cheer. Following a Celtic attack, a long ball changed the scene of play and gave Willie Waddle the chance to put the Light Blues in front. In the second half, Celtic did press for an equaliser. Arguably the biggest chance in the second half came when the boys should have had a penalty. The Celts' John Gould was fouled in the Rangers box, but to the surprise of most people on the ground, a goal kick was instead awarded. Despite many chances for Celtic, and the odd response from Rangers, there was no further goals added to the scoreline. That is, until just minutes remained on the clock. A Celtic attack allowed Malcolm MacDonald to knock home the equaliser, which helped the boys take a point in their Ibrox home game. As an aside, the notion of Celtic being the home team at Ibrox was unusual. The Edinburgh derby that day was equally strange. Hearts and Hibs both shared a remarkable 11 goals, with Hearts claiming a 6-5 victory at Easter Road. As much as playing at Ibrox was a strange experience, the biggest change for Celtic on this day came in terms of the club's manager. Willie Maley, who had been part of the club since 1888 as a player and the official manager since 1897, announced that he would depart the club. Within weeks, Celtic's most successful manager in terms of trophies won had departed Celtic Park, replaced by Jimmy McStay, who would see out the duration of the war. It's surprising that Celtic have actually played at home team as Ibrox, so it must be shocking to discover that it's actually happened on more than one occasion. The second time came in the 1970s, as a consequence of building work at Celtic Park. At the start of the 1971-72 season, the boys were due to host Rangers in a League Cup game. This was fixed to take place at Parkhead. However, ongoing building work made it an impossible situation. Hampden was also not an option due to redevelopment work there as well. There was then a standoff about what would happen. At first, Rangers insisted the game should be played at Celtic Park, which would have necessitated a behind closed doors game, owing to the construction, meaning that it wasn't safe for fans to attend. Celtic suggested the game instead be played at Ibrox, but Rangers initially refused this approach. The two sides were then embroiled in an argument over what would happen. At one point, Morton stepped in and suggested the teams could travel to Greenock and play their fixture at Capello. However, eventually this didn't need to happen. The Ibrox side relented in their refusal to let Celtic play at Ibrox. As a result, it meant that the boys went to Glasgow's south side playing as the official home team and essentially hosting Rangers. In an even stranger situation, Celtic's season tickets were able to be used to gain entry to Ibrox. There was a bumper crowd of almost 73,000 at the match, easily the biggest attendance in Britain on that day. The ones who went wearing green certainly enjoyed themselves, as did one young man in particular. Celtic had the best of the first half, although no goals were scored to highlight this advantage. The breakthrough moment took place in the 67th minute, when Jimmy Johnson edged the boys in front following an assist from Bobby Lennox. Any hope that the usual home men had of a comeback was ended within 3 minutes. Another Celtic attack saw John Hughes being fouled and the boys gaining a penalty. Captain Billy McNeil handed the ball to a young striker playing in his first Celtic Rangers game, Kenny Dalglish. The youngster dispatched the ball to make it 2-0, which was also the final outcome. The Celts were delighted to claim victory. What was even more remarkable was that this ended up being the first of 3 Celtic wins in Ibrox in less than a month. In the days of League Cup group stages, Celtic were back in Glasgow's south side 2 weeks later, this time in the more familiar position of being the away team. The boys this time won 3-0. And then 2 weeks later, Celtic claimed a 3-2 victory in an Ibrox League match, meaning the green and white men had won 3 times at their great rivals' ground in only 29 days. The Celtic and Ibrox relationship is a complex one. On the one hand, it's a venue where the boys have lost on multiple occasions, not only against Rangers, but also other sides, including cup finals. However, it's also somewhere the boys have enjoyed many memorable moments, including title wins and cup triumphs. Playing as the home team at Ibrox, Celtic have twice turned out, and they've an undefeated record when doing so. Bearing this in mind, perhaps the next time Celtic are on a bad run, they should ask to switch the games to Rangers' home venue. Of course, the only problem would be that this time, not all Celtic season ticket holders would be able to attend. Because in a world that sometimes thinks that size is everything, the Hoops fans wouldn't be able to fit in a notably smaller venue. If you want to learn more about Celtic history, follow Hail Hail History on Twitter, X and Blue Sky. You can also take part in free Celtic history walking tours. Visit celticwalkingtours.wordpress.com for more information.